Someone killed Anna. But here's the strangest part. They didn't just kill her. They apparently killed her without taking the one thing that could explain why she was targeted: the flash drive. Anna was supposed to hand it over. The drive reportedly contains information capable of exposing what really happened during a U.S. military operation in Indonesia. Information that could potentially destroy Congressman John Samson's presidential ambitions. And then Anna died. But the drive disappeared. It wasn't found with her. It wasn't in the subway carriage. It wasn't in her car. It wasn't at her home. So either somebody took it before Reacher ever arrived, or Anna made sure nobody would find it. And that second possibility changes everything. Because if Anna deliberately hid the drive, then her final actions weren't random. She knew she was in danger. She knew somebody was coming. And she may have already had a plan for what would happen if she didn't survive. That is why I think the biggest mystery in these first 3 episodes isn't actually who killed Anna. It's who Anna trusted with the truth. And if we can figure that out, we might finally figure out who has the drive. The information on that drive is dangerous because it connects the present to something that happened decades ago. Lila initially appears to have a personal reason for getting close to John Samson, but that turns out to be a cover. She's actually a journalist investigating the events in Indonesia during the 1990s, when civilians were tortured and murdered amid growing military unrest. And the alleged involvement of U.S. personnel is what makes this story explosive. Because John Samson wasn't just connected to that world. He's now trying to become president. So imagine what happens if undeniable evidence suddenly appears showing that someone connected to his past was involved in those atrocities. His campaign could collapse. His reputation could be destroyed. And that's why the drive matters. It's not just evidence. It's leverage. And Anna apparently knew where that leverage was. Which brings us to one of the biggest clues in the entire story. Anna wasn't supposed to have access to this information. At least, not according to the job we were given. She was working in HR. But her identification badge revealed level 8 clearance. That's a massive red flag. Why would someone working in HR have access to information this sensitive? Maybe Anna wasn't who everyone thought she was. Maybe her job was a cover. Or maybe she stumbled across something she wasn't supposed to see and realized just how dangerous it was. Either way, this makes one thing much more likely. Anna knew she was holding something that could get her killed. And if she knew that, then carrying the drive directly to Lila would have been incredibly risky. So what if she didn't? What if the moment Anna became suspicious, she separated herself from the evidence? That would explain the one thing Reacher can't currently explain. Why is the drive gone? And this is where Nolan Cahill becomes much more interesting. Because Nolan isn't just another character caught up in the investigation. He's connected to John Samson. And somehow he's on the same subway carriage as Anna. Then Reacher starts asking questions. And Nolan doesn't stick around to answer them. He walks off the building to his death. Now we can look at that one of 2 ways. Maybe Nolan was involved. Or maybe Nolan knew who was involved. And I actually think the second possibility is more interesting. Because if Nolan had the drive, why would he die without using it? But if Nolan knew where the drive was, suddenly his death makes perfect sense as part of the mystery. Someone may have been terrified that he would talk. And if that's true, then Reacher hasn't just lost a suspect. He's lost a witness. A witness who may have known exactly what happened to Anna before she entered that subway. And that's why I don't think we should focus only on what happened inside the carriage. The more important question may be, who did Anna meet before she got there? Because if someone took the drive before Anna reached the subway, that's where the trail begins. Now, John Samson is obviously the person with the biggest apparent motive, but I'm not convinced he's the mastermind. And this is where Elbeth Samson becomes much more interesting. Because John has everything to lose. His political career. His reputation. Possibly his entire future. But what if the person protecting that future isn't John? What if it's Elbeth? We haven't been given definitive proof that she is behind the conspiracy, and I'm not saying she definitely has the drive. But look at the circumstances. Anna is dead. Nolan is dead. The evidence has disappeared, and Samson's political future depends on that evidence never becoming public. That doesn't prove Elbeth is responsible, but it gives her one of the strongest motives in the story. And if she really is operating behind the scenes, she wouldn't need to personally carry the drive. She would only need to know where it is. That distinction is important, because the person who has the drive and the person ordering people to find it might be two completely different people. And then there's Ben. This is the part of the story that could completely change how we view Anna. Because while everyone is chasing the drive, Anna's son has disappeared, and the woman he was with is found brutally murdered. We don't know yet exactly what happened to Ben, but imagine for a second that Anna discovered he had been taken. Now imagine she also knows that powerful people are looking for the evidence she possesses. Suddenly, her fear makes sense. She's no longer simply protecting herself. She's protecting her son. And that gives us a completely different interpretation of the missing drive. Maybe Anna wasn't trying to get the evidence to Lila as quickly as possible. Maybe she was buying time. Maybe she hid the drive because she knew that handing it over would put Ben in even greater danger. And that makes her final decision much more tragic. She may have known she was going to die, but she could still have made sure the evidence survived. Which brings me to the three possibilities I think we should be watching. The first is that somebody stole the drive before Anna reached the subway. This is the simplest explanation. Someone was watching her, intercepted her, took the evidence, and then Anna was killed. The problem is that we still don't know who that person was. The second possibility is that Anna hid the drive herself, and this is the theory I currently find most convincing, because Anna had the clearance. She knew the information was dangerous. She was frightened before meeting Lila, and after her death, the drive is nowhere. That doesn't feel like an accident. It feels planned. Maybe Anna hid it somewhere only she could identify. Maybe she gave it to someone outside the investigation. Or maybe she left behind a trail that Reacher hasn't figured out yet. And then there's the third possibility. Elbeth Samson already has it. This is the theory I'm most interested in because it connects the political motive to the missing evidence. If Elbeth is protecting John's campaign, then the drive isn't simply something she wants to find. It's something she needs to control. She doesn't necessarily need to destroy it. She may need to keep it hidden. And that would explain why the evidence has vanished without completely disappearing from the story. Because eventually, I think that drive is going to resurface. The question is, who gets there first? Reacher? Lila? The people protecting Samson? Or somebody completely unexpected? And here's where I think the story could get even bigger. What if there isn't one group hunting the drive? What if there are several? One group wants to expose the truth. One wants to bury it. Another might want to use it as political leverage. That would explain why the first 3 episodes feel so complicated. Reacher may not be hunting one villain. He may be walking through the middle of a war between people who all want the same evidence for completely different reasons. And that's why I think the next episodes need to take us back to Anna. Not just her death. Her final movements. Who did she meet? Who did she call? Who knew she had the drive? And most importantly, who did she trust? Because if Anna deliberately hid that evidence, then somewhere in this story is a person who knows exactly where it is. And that person could be the key to everything. Personally, I'm leaning toward the idea that Anna separated the drive from herself before she died. I don't think it was simply lost. I don't think someone randomly found it afterward. I think Anna knew the danger was closing in and made one final decision to protect the evidence. And if Ben was being used against her, that decision becomes even more understandable. But I still can't completely rule out Elbeth. In fact, I think that's the theory worth watching most closely. Because if Elbeth already has the drive, then Reacher isn't searching for missing evidence. He's searching for the person who has been one step ahead of him from the beginning. And that would make the eventual reveal so much bigger. Because when that drive finally appears, it won't just tell us what happened in Indonesia. It could tell us who has been lying to Reacher this entire time. So after 3 episodes, I don't think the question is simply, who killed Anna? I think the real question is, who has the drive and how long have they had it? Because whoever answers that question may be the person who finally exposes the truth, or the person who buries it forever. And now I want to hear your theory. Do you think someone stole the drive before Anna reached the subway? Did Anna deliberately hide it to protect Ben? Or does Elbeth Samson already have it? And if she does, do you think John Samson even knows what his wife is really doing? Let me know what you think in the comments. Because at this point, Reacher has the body, the suspects, and the clues. But the one thing he still doesn't have is the drive.